I recently made a video talking about some changes I wanted to see made to the Forza series before the possible release of Forza Horizon 4 later this year. And today I wanted to make a video talking about some things that I would like to see added into Forza Horizon 4. I wanted to start with graphics because I figured this would be a pretty quick first topic to go over. I don't think that the graphics of the games need to change very much. I'm sure that they will make some little tweaks, but on the Xbox One specifically, there's not a whole lot that they can still do. Since it's on the PC now, and with the Xbox One X, they might push up the higher end of the graphics a little bit. But I think in general, it's not going to change very much. And I don't really think there's much need for change in the graphics. The games already look pretty good, and I don't feel that changing the visuals just for the sake of change is always a good idea. I've seen it done well before, but it's not always the best thing for a game. One thing that I did want to talk about that I think could be done better is the visual representation of damage on the cars. Right now it's not very good. It's almost non-existent on some cars. On others it's better, but usually you don't really notice. Maybe there's some small dents in the body work, and maybe there's a couple scratches or a cracked windshield, but that's about as far as the damage model goes. A game that comes to mind pretty fast when I'm thinking about this is Project Cars. That game actually has a fairly good damage model when it comes to visual representation. Hoods coming off, tires falling off, bumpers off, the whole 9 yards. It does help that it's supposed to be more of a simulation game, but overall it's just a better representation of what a damage model in a racing game I think should be. I feel the story is an area that the game could improve a little bit. I really liked the story in the first game, just the idea of someone off the streets with their junkie car just kind of driving up to some event just to race. That's about the best story I think a game like this could have. I think there could be some changes made to the Horizon Championship itself, if you want to call it that, just to make it a little more fun. Like having a score-based system to level up through the ranks, again like the first game. I think that would be a pretty good system to go with. It worked very well in the first game in my opinion, and I think it would work well again. I didn't really like the change where they made you the owner of the festival. Though it gave you some freedom in making changes to events, they didn't really expand on that enough to where I think it was worth it, and I think it wound up hurting the story overall. I also think that they could do a lot more for the street racing. In the first game, the street racing was fairly decent, but in the third game it was almost non-existent, really. And what was there was kind of awkward. They hinted at it being an illegal event that you really shouldn't do, but then they immediately turned around on you and kind of nudged you to go and do it. And it just wound up being confusing and awkward overall. I really liked the first game, how it actually had a separate space that you needed to drive to do the street racing events, and then later on you unlocked a second place and went there instead. I think they could do a lot more to improve the street racing. Like, I think there could be a lot more done to make it feel dangerous and illegal. And I don't really like the way it was handled in Forza Horizon 3 overall. What I really want to see are two separate story modes altogether with the same amount of focus put on them. One on the Horizon Championship, the purely race-focused storyline where you're pretty much just doing what you'd be doing in motorsport, where you're just doing races, going up through the ranks, progressing, and buying better cars to do better races. And the street racing, I would almost like it to feel like a completely separate game in a way, where it's a completely different environment with different characters to interact with, different things to do, different places to go, that sort of thing. And I feel like they should try to do a little more to just differentiate the two overall. Because in the third game, again, they felt kind of samey, even though you were driving on different tracks and you were driving with traffic on the roads. They, they all just kind of blended together and didn't really feel any different overall. I kind of wanted to talk about the festival, because the festival grounds is one area in the game that I think could really be improved upon a lot, actually. I think the first game did the festival grounds the best, focusing in one area, just get a big area together with everything you need right there, and then one big music festival kind of off to the side to really emphasize that part of the game. I don't feel like they've been emphasizing the music festival part of the Horizon games recently, and I would like to see more of a focus done on that. What I would like to see in the festival grounds is something sort of like the first game, where you had one central location with a bunch of different areas around it, but instead of driving into each separate area and then needing to go through a loading screen for each one, I think you could maybe drive into one, be loaded directly into that area, and then once you're inside, you'd have a menu system that you could just scroll through like normal. So say you drove into the garage, you could then switch over to a paint shop or the car dealer just like normal, but once you went to leave, you would leave out of whatever area you were in last. I also had an idea to kind of help with the poor driving situation in the game right now. I think they could have like a parking lot, like a big parking lot, where you just see it's gated off, and maybe on one end there's like a truck with someone standing next to it, and it's a Horizon driving school. You could do challenges to improve your skills at driving, just like any other driving school. Maybe they could throw some twist on it to make it a little different, but overall I would like to see just a normal driving school. I think it would really help with some of the issues with online driving, and if you could do something to reward the players after they've done it or while they're doing it to incentivize them to do it, I think that would be a big step on helping the overall quality of the driving in the games right now. I also have some things I wanted to talk about in the environment of the game. Right now, the overall environment I would say is actually pretty good, and changing the environments between games, like the first game they were in Colorado in the USA, and in the second game they were in Europe, and then in the third game they went to Australia, and I think the environment overall has been pretty good over the past 3 games, and they've really worked on it to make you feel like you actually are where they're putting you in the games. And that's one really strong part of the Horizon games, is just the immersion in the environment. But I think there could be a couple things just added to the environment to help out a little bit, make you feel even a little more immersed in the environment, in the Horizon Festival and everything that's going on. Like, I had this idea that maybe you'd be driving around and you'd see just Horizon branded cars, trucks, semis, all just driving around doing their own thing to kind of remind you you're in the Horizon Festival. There's an event going on. It's not just normal day. It's not just a normal day. You're not just going back and forth to work. And like, I even had an idea that you could see semi-trucks driving around, maybe picking up cars at races, dropping them off at races or garages or wherever, just to add a little bit to the environment, to make you feel a little more immersed in the environment that you're in. Another thought I had is that you're holding an event like this. No one in their right mind would have an event like this and not try to push safety at least a little bit. And I think that police should really be added to the games. Like, desperately, police need to be added to the game. It's a whole area of the game that's completely unexplored, and I don't know why they haven't added cops yet. It seems like such a good idea to add cops to the Horizon games. I think a lot of people would really enjoy that. And when I say cops, I don't mean like Ferrari or Bugatti driving super police that are just always going to rush right up to the back of your car and smash you off the road. I mean real cops and real cop cars that have to think tactically on where you're going, where you're gonna be, and try and find a way to stop the driver, to stop the player. Imagine this. You're in a street race. You're just minding your own business, racing, trying to win. And out of nowhere, 3 cops just rush up behind you, and they're all over the back of your car. You can outrun them, but now they've got a helicopter following you, and you can't get away from that. That thing's gonna tail you wherever you go. You have to try and get away from them while they're setting up roadblocks, they're trying to place spike strips, they're using traffic to block you. They're doing everything in their power to make sure that you can't hurt anyone. And I think that that is a huge missed opportunity for these games. That could be a selling point in these things, and they're just not there at all right now. Another thing that I would like to see is a late game item. I think there's nothing really late game in the games right now. The only real goal you have late game is just buy all the cars and win the races. That's it really. But I think something cool that could be added that's just not there is this. Picture you've finished the game, you've finished the story at least, and then you have an offer given to you to buy a plot of land. A large plot of land for a ridiculous sum of money, something absurd. But you buy it. You think to yourself, whatever, I'll fork over the money and I'll get the land. You go there, and all of a sudden you have an option to build your own track. Like a roller coaster tycoon style track editor, but for racing circuits. That would be awesome. Just being able to build your own track alone, even if it's a terrible editor, would be a big deal in these games. I think that would be a really big deal and go over really well with a lot of people. I know that I've been wanting to build tracks in these games for a long time, and I've been really disappointed, especially in this last game with the track selection. The tracks are pretty poor in these games right now, and I kind of talked about that a little bit in the last video about the driving lines and how poorly the AI go around the tracks. But being able to build your own track, that would be a big deal. That would be a really cool feature to add to these games. And something else that I think would be really cool to add to these games, I think they kind of already touched on a little bit in Horizon 3, would be a character creator. Just something small. It doesn't have to be a big leap forward to like a Bethesda game style character creator where you can mold their face, choose every little detail. Just something more than they have now where you're just choosing the driver. I think that's another pretty big missed opportunity in the games right now. And I think with the addition of the driver suits in the Motorsport series, or more specifically from Forza Motorsport 7, it could work really well. Just being able to create your own character, being able to put whatever driving suit on them you want, and then just go driving around. It seems like a no-brainer to me. Any sort of added personalization to a game like this is a big deal and a big selling point. I'd also like to see something else. This one's pretty simple. Just more cars on track. 12 cars on track right now isn't enough to make the races feel full. Everything just feels kind of empty. I think the reason they went with 12 cars on track in Horizon 3 was due to console limitations. But if they could find a way to get around that, I would be all for it. I would love more cars on track. And the last thing I want to talk about is, it's a small addition, but I think it would be pretty nice just to have it, would be a vehicle renting system. Something so that you can try a car before you decide to buy it, and then realize that it's a piece of trash and you don't want it. I've had this happen to me on multiple occasions. I've got over 350 cars in my garage, and on multiple occasions I've gone to buy a car and realized later that I wish I hadn't bought it. A, either because it was just that bad, or B, because it was too expensive for the performance I was getting out of it. It just wasn't worth it in the end. But I think a vehicle renting system would be another pretty simple add that would be really... It would just be a really nice feature to add to make things a little easier on the player. But anyways, that's all I had for this video. It's gonna be nice and short compared to the last one. Anyways, thanks for watching the video. I hope you have a great day. I'm Stormy. I'll see you later.